Hey everyone, we know how hard it can be to keep up with the latest news in Israel, so if you haven't had the time to stay on top of what's what in the Holy Land, have no worries. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and this is ILTV's Weekly Review.
It's been an intense 48 hours, and Israelis have been holding their breaths, waiting for an end to the violence. Over 360 rockets have been fired at southern and central Israeli cities since Tuesday morning, following the targeted assassination in Gaza of Islamic Jihad terror chief Baha alUta, who was planning an imminent attack. But Israel has since responded to the rockets with airstrikes and tank fire targeting Palestinian Islamic Jihad infrastructure and Palestinian militants. And Islamic Jihad, meanwhile, continued to promise an indefinite war, even releasing a video online showcasing its arsenal. And then, just hours after a shaky ceasefire seemed to be holding for the most part, sirens resumed across the south. Officials from the UN and Egypt worked to broker the suspension of hostilities between Israel and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, but it barely lasted the morning before Gazan terrorists launched 5 more rockets, 2 of which were intercepted by the Iron Dome. Before the resumption of hostilities, though, Israel dubbed the last 2 days as Operation Black Belt, claiming victory in destroying terrorist infrastructure and thwarting over 20 militants, including yet another Islamic Jihad commander. Likewise, Israeli leaders like Foreign Minister Israel Katz say that Israel gave nothing and that anyone who hurts us will be hurt back, while Prime Minister Netanyahu likewise boasted the IDF's ability in the face of Palestinian war crimes.
Deliberately target civilians, that's a war crime. Now they commit a second war crime. They not only target civilians, they hide behind civilians. What Israel did the other day, 2 days ago, has fundamentally changed that equation, because we were able to hit them in their hiding places with enormous precision, and to minimize civilian non-combatant lives, loss of lives, to the barest minimum.
No one saw this ceasefire as permanent, though, and schools and southern railways remained closed in many areas like Lachish, Beersheva, Sderot, Netivot, Ofakim, and Ashkelon. Also, Israel Beitenu head Avigdor Lieberman and Blue and White Party number 2 Yair Lapid say that more must be done. They say that there's no more deterrence in effect against these events, and that the next round of fighting is just a matter of time away. Well, it looks as though they were unfortunately correct, and Israeli defense chiefs, however, reiterate that there are new rules in play and that all who threaten will not go unpunished.
צריך שכל מחבל וכל יזם טרור ידע שהוא נושא על גבו טיימר לסוף חייו, וההחלטה בידי כל בן אדם להחליט אם להיות בטרור ולסיים את החיים או לעזוב את הטרור. וגם החלטה דומה לג'יהאד האסלאמי כארגון.
All right, now in the summer, we check in on our elderly neighbors to make sure that they have water and air conditioning. And in the winter, we make sure that they have enough blankets. But what do we do for the elderly community when they're at risk of being hit by missiles? ILTV's Shanna Fuld went down to the Gaza border to find out.
We're here in Yad Mordechai. It's a kibbutz about 2 miles from the Gaza border. When an alarm sounds, there's 15 seconds or less for people to get to safety. Most people in Israel are able to run into a shelter room close by when there's a security threat. But what do senior citizens do if they can barely walk?
I help them. We can save ourselves, but them, how they can run? How? You see them. They are in the bed. They cannot come.
Sí, que si camino por la calle y me caigo, enseguida puede llegar alguien que me ayude o a levantarme o sabiendo en el estado en que nosotros estamos viviendo.
Beit Oren is the senior home within the Yad Mordechai kibbutz community, and since Monday, more than 360 rockets have been fired from the Gaza Strip toward them in southern Israel. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad is retaliating for the killing of its commander Abu alUta, who Israeli security believed was planning a massive attack on the country.
Hay momentos que uno se siente más seguro y otros momentos más débil, pero siempre sé que estoy defendida en este país.
Most of this building is missile-proof, except for some corridors. Seniors tell us they've been trained on how to respond to alerts of fire.
Estamos educados para estos momentos.
¿Tienes miedo?
No, ¿miedo a qué? No hay lo que temer. Lo que tiene que llegar, llega de cualquier manera.
I feel that I'm happy because I help them. We come to work because of them. We have to come to save them.
A ceasefire was announced hours ago, yet rockets are still being launched in this area. If you look around, you won't see anyone in the streets because they're not close enough to a bomb shelter. Even animals are affected by the noise.
Anytime there's a session of rocket firing, he really gets into himself. He sits in the safe room in the mamad, and he doesn't come out, and he doesn't want to go for a walk, and he doesn't want to drink, he doesn't want to eat, and it really affects him.
In last cases, after they have decided on ceasefire, there were some shelling, so it's like kids playing. I want to be the last to hit or the last to say the last word. We know that routine. When they announce a ceasefire, the shelling is not over yet.
But though things have been tense and tiring at the kibbutz, everyone we spoke with said they hope things will get quiet soon.
Llegue la paz, pero para todos. Y que todo el mundo disfrute de esa paz.
And when we asked the 96-year-old how she looked so young, she answered,
Porque trabajé toda mi vida.
All right, now the Palestinian Islamic Jihad is now declaring that they are going to war with Israel in response to the killing of Palestinian terror leader Baha Abu al-Ata. But so who is Baha Abu al-Ata, and why did Israel choose to target him now? Al-Ata was a powerful head of the northern Gaza branch of the Islamic Jihad's military wing. He was the chief of their Al-Quds brigades in the Strip, and he allegedly answered to Iran, if to anyone at all. But he's also directly linked to hundreds of attacks on Israel, according to the IDF, with another one imminent. In fact, the majority of all major terror attacks against Israelis in the past year have been attributed to Al-Ata's planning and orders, including sniper attacks, drones armed with explosives, and the latest volleys of rockets that hit Sderot during a festival in August and a home in early November. Then, just as further proof, the Islamic Jihad terror organization said that Al-Ata was undergoing a heroic act when he was assassinated, but they didn't elaborate. That's not all. Judging by the rhetoric surrounding him, the attack on Al-Ata seems like it's been in the works for over a decade. In 2008, he personally led several attacks on Israel, including an infiltration in which he and 3 others crossed into Israel, murdering 2 at a fuel depot. Then finally, in 2012, there was an alleged attempt on his life during Operation Pillar of Defense. But it wasn't too long after that targeted killings as a policy in general was dropped altogether, and Israeli officials maintain that they have not returned to that policy. Speaking of Iran, the Ayatollah regime in Tehran has some big news to share, and as expected, none in the West are very happy. In the latest series of slaps to the face of the 2015 Iranian nuclear deal, aka the JCPOA, Iranian officials have announced that they are now enriching uranium at up to 5%, with the capacity of rising to 60%. However, the 2015 deal sets the uranium enrichment limits at 3.67%, as that's all that's needed for nuclear power. So once again, this breach reveals a blatant lie. That is, Iran's insistence it does not seek nuclear weapons. Israel, on the other hand, insists the opposite, and an IAEA report released on Sunday actually seems to confirm Israeli suspicions of a nuclear warehouse in Turkuzabad. Israel flagged the site last year, and the IAEA just found traces of uranium. Iran, however, says this is a trap designed by the Zionist regime. And then within just 24 hours of this first major announcement, Iran's state TV reported that construction has begun on a second power reactor at the Bushehr plant in southwestern Iran. Bushehr lies in the banks of the Persian Gulf, and it runs on uranium enriched to 4.5%, which again already is in violation of the 2015 deal. But Iran has made clear that it will not respect the tenets of the agreement anymore, especially after President Trump withdrew the U.S. from the accords and ramped up sanctions, which have since wreaked havoc on the Iranian economy. Iran appears unfazed, though, and is continuing to look for new partners to support its economy, particularly through its oil reserves, which have now been boosted by up to a third with the discovery of a new field. This field is likely the second largest in Iran, and it holds an estimated 53 billion barrels of crude oil.
چشم همه دشمنان ملت ایران در اون ایامی که شما فروش نفت ایران را تحریم کردید و بر ملت ما فشار آوردید. کارگران عزیز ما، مهندسین عزیز ما توانستند 53 میلیارد بشکه نفت را در یک مخزن بزرگ کشف کنند. اگر 1% بازیافت این میدان نفتی بیشتر بشه 32 میلیارد دلار درآمد ما بیشتر میشه.
All right, and now moving on, in a surprise decision on Friday, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has appointed the head of the new right party, Naftali Bennett, to be defense minister. And for the past year, Netanyahu himself has held both the prime minister and defense minister portfolios himself, among others.
But now the cabinet voted to approve Bennett's appointment on Sunday, and as part of the deal, the Likud and the New Right have also agreed to form a joint faction for the 22nd Knesset.
What does that mean for defense, though? Well, Bennett and Netanyahu have had a long-standing history, and Bennett previously served under Netanyahu as education minister. But as far as security is concerned, Bennett takes a harsh stance on Palestinian militancy, advocating for tough retaliation against terror groups in Gaza, Iran, and proxy group Hezbollah. And he'll be filling the position until a new government is put in place.
The snap decision seems mainly intended to impede rival Benny Gantz's coalition talks. However, as Netanyahu looks to solidify the ranks behind his right-wing bloc, Likud Knesset member Tzachi Hanegbi even admitted as much over the weekend. In response to the move, though, blue and white officials blasted the prime minister for appointing a temporary placeholder to the most sensitive establishment in the state.
Meanwhile, on Saturday, wild card and so-called kingmaker from the Israel Beitenu party, Avigdor Lieberman, gave both Netanyahu and Gantz an ultimatum: agree to President Rivlin's shared unity plan or else. He explains that both Netanyahu and Gantz must meet and make compromises, and that whoever makes the wrong decision, quote unquote, we will support the other side. Continuing to shore up support amongst the right, however, Netanyahu has already rejected Lieberman's ultimatum, saying he's bluffing with no cards to play.
As the pre-indictment corruption hearings against Prime Minister Netanyahu continue, his supporters are taking to the street. ILTV's Shanna Fold has the story.
Leave it to Israelis to turn a protest into a dance party. Saturday night, supporters of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu showed up on the plaza of the Tel Aviv Museum in the city center, calling for
equal application of the law.
The Israeli leader is facing potential charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust in connection with 3 different cases that stretch all the way back to 2011. Netanyahu has denied all the allegations, maintaining his innocence, and accusing the Israeli media of conducting a witch hunt in order to unseat him from power.
We demand, first of all, to investigate all the wrongdoings that was made by the illegal attorneys based on fake charges.
Protesters we spoke with tonight say they just want the law to be applied equally to everyone, and right now they think that's not the case for Prime Minister Netanyahu.
We feel that they are trying to do a kind of push, as was used to do in Africa or South America, and we are against.
This isn't the first protest, though, as demonstrators have made this a Saturday night routine for a handful of weeks, and have also collected outside of Attorney General Avichai Mandelblatt's home in Petah Tikva.
There was no due process. They're taking an issue, making it a precedent over an elected prime minister.
The Attorney General is expected to decide whether or not to file charges against Netanyahu by the end of November. And if the Israeli Prime Minister is ultimately indicted for bribery, Mandelblatt would most likely rule that Netanyahu could no longer serve as Prime Minister. Still, though, criminal charges would not be a legal impediment to Netanyahu running for re-election should Israel face 3rd elections. If re-elected, however, it is highly expected that a legal battle will ensue.
And now, finally, we have ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh here with us for the Quirky Corner, the quirkiest stories of the week. Emmanuel, take it away.
Hey, Aaron. Well, the first story, a cannabis company in Tel Aviv, Mastiks, has just filed a request for a gum that can clean up to 98% of the bacteria out from your mouth while also removing plaque and whitening your teeth. And the main ingredient of the gum is cannabis.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
How exactly is this gum going to be the replacement for toothpaste? Because it sounds a little off.
Right. Well, have some faith, Aaron. The gum would make it easy for people to ditch toothpaste and just chew. Trials with Hebrew University are about to begin, and the conclusion is expected to come in April of 2020. The gum ingredients would be coming to you fresh from the Holy Land, as the cannabis is set to be grown in a kibbutz in northern Israel.
Wow. All right. So definitely keep me updated on this, I guess, because I'm very interested in not having to brush anymore.
I know.
I think
Okay,
that
yeah.
just sounds great.
Definitely, I'll let you know.
Right.
So the second story for today is one that literally boggled my mind, and I'm sure it's going to do the same to you. It's been reported that Quentin Tarantino and Israeli wife Daniela Peek are renting a home in Tel Aviv for around $23,000 a month.
Sorry, what?
Yes, you heard me correctly. $23,000 a month, not shekels. Not that would be any better, but $23,000.
What house in the city is rented for that?
Yeah, it's a 2-floor, 5,000 square foot home located near the famous Kikar Medina, which is a major plaza for high-end stores and restaurants. The two are expecting their first child, and this will be the home they will welcome he or she into.
All right, well, I guess it makes a little bit more sense
High
seeing as how
standards.
he's taking a whole section of the building.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just can't get over the fact that, it's being rented at such an insane price. It's not even on the beachfront.
It's not, it's not walking distance from the beach, but yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Yes. It's definitely probably going to be a stunning home anyway, but the last interesting story for today. Public libraries around the world have been going digital, and now it's Israel's turn. The National Library of Israel will lift 120,000 of its books onto the web with a helping hand from Google.
Wow, it's funny, because you think that Israel is so advanced when it comes to startups and technologies, yet we still have to digitize our books. What's the process going to be like?
Well, the library says it's a complex process, as the books must be shipped in containers that meet strict climate control and security requirements, from the library's location in Jerusalem all the way to the center of Germany, where the Google Digitization Center is located. The books going up are 45% in Hebrew, Yiddish, and Ladino, with the rest in Latin, English, German, French, Arabic, and Russian. It's all part of Google Books project, which is converting 40 million books from 70 major libraries in the US, Europe, and Japan into digital copy.
All right, well, nowadays, kids are reading everything off of their digital screens,
right,
like Kindle and, all the others. So it's only right to digitize these books for them to be able to read, just like, we all did, I guess. But thanks for the quirky stories of the week, Emmanuel.
Of course.
And now for this week's Torah portion with Sandra Oster-Barris, Director of the Christian Friends of Israeli Communities in Heartland.
This week's Torah portion is Vayera, literally means, and he appeared. And it begins with the story of God appearing to Abraham. And we have a number of different stories within this Torah portion. Everyone is exciting, but I would like to focus on one story that is often viewed critically, certainly controversially. And that is the story of the expulsion of Ishmael. If you recall, Abraham has two sons. He starts out with the fact that Sarah cannot bear any children or hasn't been successful in bearing children. They're both very old. Sarah herself suggests that Abraham take Hagar, the Egyptian maid, and have a son with her. That succeeds, and Ishmael is born. And of course, there's ongoing tension here because Hagar is the maid. She has this firstborn son for Abraham. Sarah's feeling, kind of out of sorts with all of this. Things go on, but finally, God then promises that Sarah too will have her own son, and she gives birth to Isaac. Now, interestingly, Isaac in Hebrew is Yitzchak. And Yitzchak means laugh. And the name comes from the fact that when God first promised this son to Abraham and Sarah, they thought it was a joke. After all, these people were really old, okay? And they were having children, okay, fine, but God does miracles, and Isaac is born. In our Torah portion, we encounter an unusual situation. Ishmael, the word used is mitzachek. Ishmael is doing something to Isaac, and we don't know what it is. What does that word mean? Now, some people have interpreted it as meaning he's teasing him. Some people say he's playing with him. Well, if he's just playing with Isaac, that sounds like an innocent enough pastime. But in fact, if you see the word mitzachek, you will notice that the same word is used later on when Rebecca and Isaac are kind of fooling around, and the king of Philistines notices it. Clearly, this word has a sexual connotation. And therefore, a very common interpretation is that Ishmael is molesting or bothering Isaac in a far more serious way. Anyway, the upshot of this is that Sarah sees this, understands this is a huge problem, and the two have to be separated. And she wants Abraham to send away his firstborn son. This is very painful for Abraham. He does not want to do it, but God interferes. And God says, no, listen to your wife. Remember that, all you men out there, listen to your wife. Seriously, though, God gives full confirmation to Sarah, her instincts, and the fact that Ishmael and Isaac need to be separated. And God gives his stamp of approval with the final words. He says, it is Isaac who will be your heir, Abraham. Now, many people look at this as a very immoral situation. In fact, Abraham loads up Hagar with some water and some bread and sends them out to the desert, but they get lost. God comes and protects them. But actually, God said to Abraham all along, I will protect Ishmael. He too will grow into a great nation. And that is exactly what happens. Isaac fathers the nation of Israel. Ishmael fathers a different nation. He has many princes. He has wealth. He has power, but he is not Israel. He has his own land, but he does not inherit the land of Israel. And that distinction is critical. Today we have descendants of Ishmael that are determined to take the land, our one little teeny piece of land, away from the nation of Israel. We cannot allow that. I would like to end, though, with a bit of optimism. In the story of Ishmael and Isaac, those two brothers remain close. And in fact, when Abraham dies, Ishmael comes back, joins Isaac, and together they bury their father. There is true acceptance by Ishmael of each of their own separate destinies. This is Sandra Osterbaris with a few minutes of Bible from the heart of biblical Israel.
That's it for ILTV's weekly review. See you next week.